Okay, so hand printing. Very similar to printing on a press. I'm using my template where I've got my block, and then I've got a place where I know my paper needs to go. Just much more elbow grease. We're going to use a spoon or a hand printing tool is called a baren. And all you're doing is using the pressure. And I'm using not just the weight of my hand, I'm pushing with my body. So ergonomically, if you're higher than the block where you can press, it makes it easier. And with your thin Japanese paper or any thin paper, you should be able to easily check the transfer. So you can see where it's transferred and where it hasn't. Again, when you're hand printing, you're seasoning that block. This block has been printed a lot, so it prints really easily. When you go to hand print a block that you haven't printed before, it's going to take a while to get the block used to accepting ink and releasing ink easily. You can see that little area right there is what we would call salty. It has white specks in it. It's not a bad thing. I mean, you could decide, hey, I like how that looks. The question becomes, okay, if you're printing 5 copies of this, can you do that kind of consistently? You know, not that they have to be 100% identical, but they should be as similar as you can possibly make them. You know, it's a question of intention. You can see I have all of my fingers or hand in that area of the spoon, and I'm pressing with my whole hand. Let's see if I can make that a little darker. Yeah, see how that got really solid? The other issue with hand printing is that it's easy for the paper to move and shift, so you want to always keep your one hand on the paper so it doesn't move while you're printing. Right? Hand printing also gives you the ability to say, hey, I want to make certain areas lighter. Right? So if you look at this area, it's not nearly as dark as this area. I could do that by hand printing. I could say, okay, I want to keep that area really, really light. So maybe I just use my hand on that area to just lightly rub. And then because I can see the image coming through the paper, I can make the areas dark that I want to make dark or print really solidly. And that's all we're doing. Print, rub it, check the paper, check the impression, rub more. If you didn't print with a press, you probably didn't see the video where I talked about how do I know whether I need to press harder or whether I've got enough ink. Real easy to tell. Right, what the problem is if it's not printing well. If you press in a spot that didn't print well, as hard as you possibly can, right, and you don't see any area getting darker or filling in anymore, then you don't have enough ink on it. You want to make sure you ink up that block 4 different directions, adding ink to your inking slab every time as you hear the sound and the texture changes.